So that newsletter, huh? Not even newsletter, so that random post on Blue Sky and Twitter that Toby just put out there. You know, with dialogue about deaths and shadow crystals. We're not going to talk about that Sham knows what's going on and has known since the very beginning. Who made that first dark fountain? Who would know that? The night. Probably Kris. They back away from it, but like, it's adding more evidence. It's adding more evidence. If shadow crystals are determination, and that monologue from, well, not monologue, that little speech about getting close to beating the night is about your determination, we're going to get a file merge because you can get all this stuff. You get stars, you can get shadow crystals. We're going to have all 3 files, and you're going to basically take your save, and you're going to take your shadow crystal save, and you're going to save all over it. So you're going to save over 1, 2, and 3 for every chapter. And Kris will be able to use those. With all the shadow crystals, all the power of will, all the power of determination. Which really, chapter 2, you're filled with a certain power. And then Kris goes and makes the dark fountain. Of being a pure determination. Of being, I heard someone say like living out of pure determination. And Rudy fits. I mean, he's ill. It fits. But Kris, if we're going by the Kris is a corpse theory that I mentioned, like in that other video, and Kris is a corpse and Kris is living out of pure determination. How cool would that be? Kris is already dead. Kris died, and the only way to live is to become the Roaring Knight. Because unlike Gerson, who was fine with being dead, I don't think Kris is, and is going to want to find a way to keep living. That could be why they hate us so much, because we're impeding on their life. That could be very interesting. It would be very interesting. And how does that relate to deaths? Well, I mean, it could be deaths. I mean, if she was ill or something and it's like barely hanging on, you know, the whole Gaster thing. But like, aside from that, Kris makes sense. Rudy also just kind of makes sense because like, he's the one in the hospital, he's sick, he's going to be holding on by the power of will. But like, Kris makes more sense. Kris makes so much more sense. Kris being the Knight and doing like file resets and a timeline, like a file merge. Because we have 3 systems, we're controlling it through like a system, like a console type system, I think in chapter 1. Like, we're literally controlling it through something else. We are, as the player, using a device in universe to control Kris. Which, by the way, was replaying chapter 1 because I can and it's awesome. Remember when you're doing the puzzle? More accurately, Susie's doing the puzzle, and she asks Kris for help in the prison. The camera pans. Normal game shenanigans, but this is Delta Room. That's not the same thing. Because we have that's a thing that happens. It's a thing in chapter 3 where the camera doesn't pan. We're on a top-down view. So why does it do it in chapter 1? Why does it do it in chapter 1? When Susie needs help with the puzzle. And Ralphie knows. Ralphie knows that we can watch other people. But even when we try to do other options, we only control Kris in chapter 1. We can't tell Susie to go a different way. We're telling her what to do as Kris. Also, in that fight with Lancer, now it doesn't matter what you do, the outcome's the same, but you can still take damage purposefully to Susie as Kris. Like, the soul takes the damage and it spreads it to the party. Could just be a game mechanic thing, but like, technically, like, if it was a part of the game where our choices mattered, we could have had the ability to stop Susie by doing damage to the soul. So there's something going on. And in the weird route, if we're trying to infect Noelle with some kind of soul shenanigans, wait. What if Noelle's the night? Hear me out, the antlers. And what if it's a weird route Noelle? What if the night is a weird? Oh, if the night's a weird route, Noelle that had to go through that and do timeline merge. Imagine that weird route makes you do it on all the saves and erase any sense of goodwill you could have had. And the game, like, because like Undertale's genocide route, once you do it, it wants you to remember you did it forever. And the weird route is worse. The weird route feels worse. So it would make sense that it would want to have lasting effects. Imagine you have to wipe all of your saves. All the terrorized Noelle. Now, I don't have a why. I don't know the why yet. Maybe we'll find out in chapter 5, 6, or something like why that would happen. Also, part of me just doesn't want to figure it out because I like this game. And like Gersten says, if it's too predictable, where it kind of ruins the fun, like, you know. But if it's true, Sam knows too much. Sam knows too much. Why was Susie late on the first day of class? Also, just... Okay, that seems irrelevant. But maybe it's not. But another thing is, like... Toriel's like, wake up or we're gonna be late. Why would Kris be late to school? Like, Kris, you're gonna be late for school. How would Kris be late? Is it normal for Kris? I doubt it. And the fact you can go back to bed and wake up and still keep playing. Kris, like, you can go to sleep and it's fine and you're just there. Everything would have played out the same. Same in chapter 2, you could just sleep and it plays out the same. I need to check on the later chapters, but, like, it's there. So why can you do that? Why is Kris purposely doing this? To follow the prophecy? Who made the prophecy? But if this is like Undertale logic where whoever has the most determination also has resets, that's just one save. Flowey had multiple saves. That was more than a human soul. That was multiple human souls. Wait. If Flowey could have multiple saves because he had multiple human souls, what if we're dealing with someone with more than one human soul? Or a human and a monster soul fusion? Or some other way that we get not just the one save file, but we get multiple save files. Because we have more power, we have more souls, we have more determination. Unless, as we are determined to beat these hard bosses, like Shovel and Spamtum and the Knight and Gerson, we are determined. But the thing that holds the determination is the shadow crystals, which means it would be Kris. But what if other characters technically had the power to reset or anything like that, but they just didn't know how to use a crystal? But what if we come across a character that does? And how that in Freedom, like, as we get more crystals, does Kris become more free? Free to use their own body, like we with the Roaring Knight, because we can't control the Roaring Knight. It'll be the end of the world. Does Kris get to rewrite the world? Or does Noelle get to rewrite the world? Or, like, whoever is the knight? Because, okay, so when I first played, I'm like, yeah, it's Rudy. Someone who's weak in the light world, but Rudy would be the yeah, this is what the clear choice would be. But I feel like there's something bigger. Either I'm overthinking, either it's Rudy and I've been overthinking this, or it really is that deep. Because I think Kris is the Roaring Knight. Yeah. And I think it was foreshadowed all the way back in chapter 1. Another 10-odd-minute video on who the knight is. It's Kris. It's Kris. Always has been. Kris has been involved from the start. Which makes them backing away from the closet a little odd, but we know they're involved with something. We've known since, unless they didn't know. Unless they didn't know. I don't think that's possible, but it's possible that they didn't know, and then they go to school, and then they go to the dark world. Which, by the way, the chase does have the knight's theme. I realized that on recent listen, so that means the knight's been there since the freaking beginning. But I was thinking, what if Kris didn't know? Kris goes to school, Kris and Susie hang out, they go to the dark world, and they go, and Kris meets Rouse, and they go through the stuff like usual, until the part where Rouse says, why don't you try thinking about Susie and see what she's up to? We don't know what they talk about, so what if Rouse was informing Kris of what was to come? And then in chapter 2, when Kris has got, what if Kris found out about the rest of it after that? Or what if it was chapter 1? Because all we know is Kris ate the pie. You're like, what's Kris doing? What's with the knife, Kris? Well, you threw us out and now you do this, you grab a knife, and then it's like, Kris just grabbed pie. And we all thought, haha, that's so funny. But what if? Because that's an entire night. An entire night. So what if during that, Kris gets the pie, obviously. It makes us less suspicious, but then that's when everything gets set in motion. But also, can we talk about how weird chapter 3 was? What do you mean? We wake up. We didn't seal it. We didn't seal the fountain. Not that I recall, but Kris just wakes up. Like it was all a dreamer. It was all a dreamer. Kris dreamer. I'm making puns, but there's something to it. And you can't tell me I'm wrong until the game is fully done. Because it's all theories. Kris dreamer. This dreamer right there. Kris. Or what if Kris just breaks the entire game? And what if being non-binary is a pun? Like determination. The refusal to die. If Kris is a corpse and if Kris is a corpse and they have determination. And you take a determination, and that's not just the power to hold, that's the power to resist death. I think I said this over the whole corpse thing, but not only are they just, and it's the power to resist death. And if they're a corpse, if Kris is a corpse, Kris died. Kris's dead theory just put the freaking chapter 4 area with the mics and the crazy boy, the boar of madness. Who is Mike? Who is Mike? We still don't actually know. It might be important to know who Mike is. So yeah, you take the Mike thing. Mike will be important, I think. So you take the Mike, you take the Kris, and what is going on? Also, one of the options in the freaking survey is voice. What if Kris uses the mic? Kris and Mike. And the vessel gets the voice. Anyway, that's my insane ramblings for now. For now, you're not rid of me. I will be back to ramble more in the future. But hey, that's just a theory. Deltarune theory. God, I need help. There's so freaking much that's possible. So freaking much. Chapter 5 this year. Deltarune tomorrow.